Outside it's pretty much blowing a complete gale. Inside the polytunnel is a little bit more sheltered, but at least we're a lot more protected than we are outside. Hello and welcome back. This week we've currently got 40 to 50 mile an hour winds and on and off torrential rain. If you still want to get your gardening fix, if you have the luxury of being able to work inside a polytunnel, it's ideal because it means you can just get out the wind and still enjoy and work on your plants. A polytunnel is just a very, very simple polythene screen over some hoops, but it does give us protection from the wet, and it also insulates some of the plants that we're growing over the winter. Because of our situation where we are, we still have plenty of water that's coming underneath here. So even though we're inside a polytunnel, because of the volume of water and the snow that's melting at the moment, we still struggle with water in here. And as you can see, if you pan down to the floor there, I have to be careful that we've not got plants sat in water. Key benefits of having a polytunnel is basically that it's going to give you protection for your plants over the winter, and it means that you're keeping the temperature warmer for the plants and giving them a little bit of protection from some of the elements. So for anybody that's thinking of having a polytunnel, one of the things that we've done here is we've actually built a smaller propagation tunnel inside our main tunnel. Inside there, for the spring, it warms up a lot quicker, which gets the root movement going a lot quicker for propagating younger plants. So, and it's a very, very simple, cheap structure that we've put up inside, but it has worked, and that's just actually worked now for the last 4 years. And it just means that we've got an extra microclimate inside, which means that we're getting a bit more quicker root development. And then once the plants have rooted, we can then move them outside and get them hardened off. If you come down here, these are Lenten roses. Traditionally, Lenten rose or hellebore orientalis would flower around Easter time, hence being called Lenten rose is the common name. More and more now, because obviously with changes in temperature, we're finding that these are flowering a lot sooner. So if you look down at that one particularly, it's actually now just coming into flower. So that's just starting to open. What we traditionally do to clean the plants and show your flowers off at this time of year, we'd normally then either in the autumn or midwinter, we would come and we'd actually cut all the leaves off with the hellebores. So we'd cut all these down to the base, which will then expose the flower spikes. And it really shows. So the flowers are going to come from the centre here. All these outer leaves will take back to about 1 inch. And it will just clean the plant off and really show your flowers off nicely. By cutting those leaves off, you're exposing the flowers, doesn't cause it any harm whatsoever. And if there's any, particularly if there's any damage or disease on those old leaves, as soon as they finish flowering, the new leaves will start to come through and the plant will then establish nicely for next year. This is a Ballardia hybrid. So this is one of the few hellebores that will grow in a sunny spot as well as semi-shade. And this one flowers with a lovely white flower, normally around February, March time, although on occasion it has been known to still be in flower or to start flowering in January. So when we're growing these hellebores, as you can see with this particular one, the roots are now starting to come through out of the base. So with that plant, it now is saying to me that that needs to be potted onto the next size. So we've got really good root development coming on that. So I am gently just going to tease through the base of the roots. And then you can see that's lifted through quite nicely. So, and these are lovely, healthy, fleshy roots at the base of that plant that are going to start shooting away. So that now is going to get potted onto a larger size. To give you an idea, if you were growing that and wanting to grow it onto a larger size, it could be planted straight into the garden, it could be planted into a larger planter as a permanent situation. or if you were growing it on for a larger plant, as we're going to, that's the size pot. So I'll be going from a 1 litre to a 2 litre pot. So it's not hugely bigger because it's coming into flower, but it's just big enough to help to develop the rest of the root system. Okay, so looking at the main structure of our polytunnel, you can see that the bottom, the sides, traditionally a polytunnel would go all the way down to the floor, which is great, but particularly for us to try and help keep the air movement for us, because due to the wind, we can't always leave the doors open up here. So we vented the bottom with a windbreak, which means that the air can still circulate through the plants. And again, by venting, that just means that although it's allowing some of the wind to come through, it's also keeping the air movement around the plants, so we tend to suffer less with botrytis and some of the other fungal diseases because we've got the movement coming through the polytunnel. Inside here, there's a lot less air movement. Obviously, on a day like today, there is plenty, but there is a lot less, so we have to check the plants in here a lot more often to make sure that we've not got anything damping off or any diseases, so we're a lot more selective. Weeding is one of those jobs that always needs doing, so even because we've got a little bit of protection in here, the weeds will grow quicker than the main plants. It's just a staple given and something you just need to expect. But if there's any little weeds developing in the pot, if I leave them, the weeds will then start to develop, and particularly, probably crushed it. So if you can get a close up, this is hairy bitter cress, which is an incredible weed. So within about 3 days, that can go from a seed landing on a compost to a flowering plant as the temperature warms up. It's very easy and quick and easy to remove it, and it's not an invasive or not really a big problem, but it is a weed that will spread quite rapidly. So as we see them as a baby stage, it's a lot easier to pick them out before they seed. Well, I'm sorry it's going to be a short video this week, but there's still plenty to do, even though it's blowing an absolute gale outside with the rain and the wind. I'm just going to finish weeding off around the Perovskia, the Russian sage that we looked at earlier on in the year. It's another fantastic foliage plant that stands over the winter. But as the weather's been absolutely terrible, I'm going to start to try and wrap it up, I think, for this week. And I'm going to crack on and get some work done in here. If you found anything that we talk about useful, then just hit the like button and let us know. And subscribe if you'd like to see some more videos. If you need to get hold of us for any gardening questions, then in the description we've now done an email link so you can email any gardening questions straight through to us.